Hello and welcome to Pixel Magic Tutorials. I'm your host Geekman, and today we're going to learn how to create pitted metal text in Photoshop. Now, a couple of assumptions that I got to get out of the way right off the bat. Number one, I am using Photoshop CC 2017, so if you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, some of the effects may not work as expected. Second, I am using Windows. So if you're using a Mac, when I say hit the Control key on the keyboard, that means hit the Command key. And when I say hit the Alt key on the keyboard, that means hit the Option key. So with all of that out of the way, let's get started by hitting Control N on the keyboard to bring up the new image dialog box. Then let's just name this pitted metal text because that's what we're making, and our width is going to be 3840 pixels, our height is 2160 pixels, resolution of 150 pixels per inch, RGB color 8-bit, background contents, let's make that black. So let's click on the little color icon there and make sure that we're at all zeros. Hit OK, and we're going to use Adobe RGB 1998 color profile and square pixels. Hit create, and we are now ready to begin. The first thing that we'll do is we'll create some kind of background for our text to sit on. It'll be a very simple background. Now here we have background in our layers palette. Let's just click on the little lock icon there to unlock that background. Let's rename it as just background. Sounds silly, I know, but that's what we're going to do. And now what we can do, since it's unlocked and renamed, we can give this in a couple of layer styles to give it a nice look. So let's go down here to our layer styles. Let's click on that, and then let's go to color overlay. Now, the blend mode that we want to use for this is going to be color, and the color that we're going to use for this is actually going to be 252 D39. Okay, a very dark blue, and the opacity that we're going to use is going to be 100%. The next thing that we're going to do is go here to pattern overlay. We're going to click on that, and we're going to make our blend mode screen. Our opacity is going to be 65%. We're going to be using a light marble pattern, and you can get that by clicking on the little arrow, then clicking on this little sprocket, going down here to rock patterns, clicking on that, replacing your current patterns with rock patterns, click OK, and then it'll be this guy right here. Okay, then we're going to scale that up to 400%, and we're going to make sure that link with layer is checked. And that right there is all that we need for our background. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to give this, well, let's just write in our text first, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to choose our font. Now, you can use just about any font that you want for this. I'm going to use something that looks like it would be old pitted metal that you see in a lot of movie posters. So I'm going to use a font called Cardo. It's free. There's a link in the description below where you can download it for free. Okay, so I'm going to go to my text tool, which is T on the keyboard, or you can just go over here to the text tool and click on that. And then I'm going to bring out my character palette. Now, if you don't see the character palette, you can just go up here to Window and then go down here to Character, and now it'll show up right there. So I'm going to choose Cardio. I'm going to choose Cardo, not Cardio, Cardo font, and I'm going to make sure that it's on bold. The size that I'm using is 235 points. None of the other stuff here really matters except the color. We want to make sure that our color is pure white, so make sure that it is all Fs and hit OK. And then we want to make sure that we are on all caps. Now, you don't have to use all caps. That's just what I'm using. So feel free to not use that if you don't want it. Okay, once we have all of that set, we are then going to click over here to start writing on our text. And as always, I will use Pixel Magic for my text. Now, most free fonts that you can get off the web will have wacky kerning, and the kerning is the spacing between letters. You can see here the M and the A are very close, but the G is pretty far away. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix that, and the way that we do that is we put our cursor in between the letters that we want to fix, and then we use our Alt and our arrow keys, left and right arrow keys on the keyboard in order to move things closer or further apart. So this P and the I, I'll use the left arrow and holding down Alt, and that will bring it closer together, and right arrow will bring it further apart. So I'm just going to clean this up real quick, and then we will get back to the actual magic of turning this into pitted metal text. So that looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to hit the check mark up there, and then I'm going to go back to my move tool, which is V on the keyboard, or you can go up here to the move tool on your toolbar, and then just click and drag until I get to the center of my document, like so. Now I have my text in the center of my document. And now, before we actually begin on the text, on making the text look like pitted metal, we're going to give our background a little bit more flair. And we're going to do that by clicking back on our background layer here. And then above that, we're going to do an adjustment layer, a curves adjustment layer. Okay, and you can get to that by clicking down here on this little half moon, which is your adjustment layers, and then going up here to curves. Once you see curves, if you don't see properties, again, you can go to window and then just go to properties right here. And once you see this, all you want to do is grab this upper right guy there and just drag him down until this bottom black line. Okay, then you want to go to your on your curves layer, you want to make sure that you select your mask. Once you do, the properties will change to the mask for that layer. And we want to go here to feather, and we want to make this 175. Okay, now that we have it at 175, that's really all that we need there. Our curves layer is now ready. All we have to do is select our mask layer and zoom out so that we can see more of our surrounding area of our image. Now you can do that by clicking on your zoom tool or hitting Z on the keyboard like that, then holding down Alt on your keyboard and then clicking a few times until you can see more of your background. Once you've done that, what we need to do next is get to our elliptical marquee. And you can do that by hitting M on the keyboard, which will bring you to the marquee, or you can click over here and just go down to the elliptical marquee. Now, if you click on M on the keyboard and you get the rectangular marquee, the quick way to get to the elliptical marquee is to hold down Shift and then hit M, and that will switch over to the elliptical marquee, as you just saw me do. Now, what we want to do is we want to draw a fairly large elliptical marquee like so. That's really all that we need to do, but we also want to turn this so that it goes from the upper left to the lower right. And the way that you do that is you go here to Select, and then we're going to go to Transform Selection. Once you've done that, then we can move this to the center, and then we can turn it like so to get most of our text into the frame of the vignette kind of thing that we're going to do here. So once you've got that, you're going to hit Enter, and then we're going to fill this with black. And the way that we fill this with black is we're going to hit Alt and Backspace. Whoops, that's the wrong one. It's Control and Backspace to fill it with black because our black is in the background because we're on our standard black and white. Once you have done that, you can hit Control D on the keyboard to deselect, and then you can zoom back in to fill your screen, which is Control and 0 on your keyboard. Once you've done that, we are now ready to do the actual effects on our text to make them look like pitted metal text. So we're going to select our Pixel Magic text layer, and then we're going to start doing all of our layer styles. Let's begin by bringing our mouse down to the layer styles, and we'll start with bevel and emboss. Let's make sure that this is out of your way. Okay, bevel and emboss. We're going to do a style of inner bevel. Technique is going to be chisel hard. Depth is going to be 100%. Direction is up. Size is going to be 100. Soften is 0. Angle, and make sure that you have Use Global Light unchecked, is going to be 135 degrees. Altitude is 60 degrees. Gloss contour is going to be a custom gloss contour. Okay, and that is going to be done this way. First, click directly on the gloss contour, and that will bring up your contour editor. Okay, and this is the thing that we need to make. It's kind of a straight line up and then a curve down and back up to a shortened thing here. Now, it's very easy to do. I will show you exactly how to do this by getting rid of what I have here and then starting from scratch. Now, the first thing that you want to do is you want to click right there on the line, and that will give you your first point. And what you want to do is go down here to Input and make that 40. And Output over here, you want to make that 90. Okay, that'll bring you way up to there. And then what you want to do is you want to click on Corner here. So you want to make it a corner. Then you want to click again. Okay, and that input, you want to make 69. And then the output over here, you want to make that 20. Okay, then you want to click once again, and you want to make that input as 80, and the output is going to be 20. And then all you have to do is click on this last one up over here, and you want to make the input 90. There you go. Very simple and easy to do, and that will give you this look for your text. Hit OK, and then what we're going to do down here is we're going to make sure that anti-alias is checked. We're going to make our highlight mode screen. The color that we're using for screen is going to be C5D, 5D9. Hit OK. Opacity for that is going to be 60%. Our shadow mode is going to be linear burn, and that's going to be black, which is all zeros. And opacity there is going to be 75%. Next up is contour. So we're going to go to contour. We're going to make our contour Sawtooth 2. Now Sawtooth 2 is not part of the standard contours. If you don't see all of these contours, just click on the sprocket, go down here to contours, and it'll say replace current contours with contours from contours. Click OK, and then you will see all of these, and then you can choose Sawtooth 2. Anti-alias is checked for that, and range is going to be 98%. Next up is going to be a texture. Now the pattern that we're using here you can find by clicking on this little arrow here and then going down here and then going to your rock patterns again if it's not showing up. And you want this, what is this, dark marble? What is this called? Black marble. That's what we're looking for. And the scale is going to be 300%. Depth is going to be -4%. Next up is going to be a stroke. Now the stroke that we're using here is going to be a size of 1. Position is going to be center. Blend mode is screen. Opacity is 88%. Overprint is checked. The fill type that we're using is gradient. The gradient that we're using is black and white. Now if you don't see black and white, just click on the sprocket and hit Reset Gradients. That will get rid of what you have and will give you your standard gradients. And the black and white that we're looking for is this guy right here, black and white. Reverse is unchecked. Align with layer is checked. Linear is the style. Angle is going to be 90 degrees. Dither is unchecked, and scale is 100%. Next up is going to be an inner shadow. So let's click on inner shadow, and our blend mode here is going to be multiply. The color that we're using is black, which is all zeros. Opacity is only 30%. Angle is going to be -45 degrees. Use global light. We never use it. Unchecked. Distance is going to be 2, choke is 0, size is 2, contour is linear, which is the standard default. Anti-alias is unchecked, noise is going to be 0. Next up after inner shadow is going to be inner glow. So let's click on that. Blend mode for this is vivid light, opacity is 45%, noise is going to be 30%, and the color that we're using is a very, very light blue, which is E3, E9, EC. The technique that we're using is going to be softer. Source is going to be the edge. Choke is 0. Size is 4. Contour is linear again. Anti-alias is unchecked. Range is 50. And jitter is going to be 15%. Next up is going to be color overlay. So let's click on color overlay. Now the blend mode that we're using here is going to be color. And the color that we're using is different than what we just used before. It's going to be 97A1. AA, a very steely kind of light blue there. And the opacity there is still going to be 100%. The next up is going to be a gradient overlay. Okay, blend mode is going to be normal. Dither is unchecked. Opacity is 80%. Gradient that we're using here is called silver. Now, if you don't see silver, because as we just did, you have just the normal, regular default gradients, then you want to go down here to metals, click on that, hit OK, and it will be this guy right here called silver. Okay, reverse is unchecked, align with layer is checked, style is linear, angle is 90 degrees, scale is 94%. Next up is just going to be many drop shadows. Now, I'm doing this because I want the shadow to look as if the light source is casting a shadow this direction. Now you can do this in many different ways. I decided to give it a shot of doing it in the layer styles to make it easier should you wish to use this on different text. Now there are other ways. I'm not going to show you how to do that now, but this is how we're going to learn this time. Now drop shadow number 1, the topmost drop shadow is going to have a blend mode of multiply. The color that we're using for all the shadows is going to be black, which is all zeros. Opacity for this one is 60%. Angle is going to be 135. Make sure you use global light is unchecked. Distance is going to be 10. Spread is 0. Size is 10. Contour is linear, which is the default. Anti-alias is checked. And noise is 0. Layer knocks out drop shadow is checked. Now, all of the rest of the next 5 shadows, making 6 altogether, all of them will be the same except the opacity, the distance, and the size. Those are the only things that will be changing. So the next drop shadow, the one below the first, will be an opacity of 50%, distance of 25, and size of 15. Everything else stays the same. The next drop shadow is going to be an opacity of 40%, distance of 45, size of 20, and everything else stays the same. The next one down will be an opacity of 30%, distance 70, size of 25. Everything else stays the same. Drop shadow number 5 is going to be 20%, distance of 100, size of 30. Everything else stays the same. And the last one here is going to be an opacity of 10%, distance 150, size 50. Everything else stays the same. Hit OK, and we are now done with our pitted metal text effect. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. I do new tutorials every Tuesday. Once again, this is Geekman signing off for Pixel Magic Tutorials.